showing you guys how this kit comes together. I figured I'd do the steps beforehand just so that if you guys want to make this, if you have the supplies at home and you want to learn how to make one, you can do that if you have them without having to get the kit, but also show you some of the work that gets put into making the kit. So I did go ahead and cut down my cardstock for my cover. The cardstock cover size is 7¼ inches long by 5½ or by 5 inches wide. And then I did score this at 3 3/8 inches to get that overlap. Oh, let's see who's going to get our givey. Nance, $19.99. You're going to have this cute little kit to make some little clip-on charms coming out to you. Write your name on this. All right, so we're going to get started turning this piece of cardstock into a little mini file folder. So I use, it's actually an envelope punch. It has like the rounder for your corners, and then it has this little notch holder. And at the end, I'll cover, I've got a little link that y'all can look at if you need any, if you want to purchase any of these tools that I use today. So I'm going to take the side that is longer, the part that's sticking out, and I'm just going to line this up with the edge. Oh, you're welcome, Nance. Now you can do this with any size cardstock and make it whatever size you want, but you might have to play around to figure out where to notch for your tab. With this size, it works out really well just to line the top up and to punch, and then to line the bottom up with the other side and to punch. It's a very odd angle to try to punch at. And so then that perfectly puts our little tab right into the middle. And let me grab my cutter. You can do this with a pair of scissors if you can cut in a straight line, which I can't always cut in a straight line. So what I do is I take and I line up my guideline on my cutter just above right here. I'm just going to line this up. And then I'm going to start cutting from this side, and then when I stop feeling resistance, I'm going to stop cutting. And then I'm going to pick up and I'm going to go over to the end. And I'm going to cut from this end, and I'm going to go until I stop feeling resistance. And so then it will make it into a perfect little file folder. All right. So next, I'm going to go ahead and round the corners, which the covers that you'll get in your kit will already have your corners rounded. All right. So all 4 corners nicely rounded. Pick up my little pieces. All right, so now we've made it into our little file folder. I am going to take real quick and distress this some. Ow! Try not to break my finger. And of course, distressing is a choice, so if you don't want to distress yours, you don't have to. But I think it kind of gives it a little bit extra. I love distressing stuff. Try to do this quickly so y'all don't just have to stare at me distressing something forever. And then I am also going to do along my little spine. Let's make that a harsher fold. Alright, and then I am also going to distress around the inside. because we're not gonna cover the whole inside. We're gonna put some little pockets in there that'll look cute. But I do want to distress around the edges so that it'll match. I'm not doing this really dark because that would take a while. And I will say I'm using the walnut stain. The vintage photo, which is one of my faves, doesn't really work too well. Didn't really round very well. Didn't really work too well on this this color cardstock. Alright, so we've got our little cover. And next we are going to start working on our little kit. So on your kit, you'll already have grommets on your belts or your straps, whatever they are. But I'm going to show y'all how to use a grommet maker just in case. So I have this little kit that came with grommet pliers and then like a mix of different color, which I've used a ton of them, different color grommets. So let's see, I'm going to need 4. I'm going to do these guys. So I'm just going to get 4 of the tops out. And then 4 of the bottoms. Maybe. I can open the little baggie. That's 5. Right. So your grommet is in 2 pieces. So you'll have this flat little ring. It's mostly flat. One side will be a little bit rounder than the other, and then like one is kind of concaved in, which will be important when we're putting it on. And then the other side of your grommet is what I call the top, the cap, and it looks kind of like that. All right, so we are going to, so if you squeeze the pliers, they usually have this little safety bar, a little thingy you got to take off. So on the side of this, it tells me that this is for where the topper part goes. So we know that that's our top part and that side's going to be for our bottom. So I'm going to start out with putting the rounded part where it kind of seems to round out towards the bottom. And then this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to put my topper right on top. I don't know if I can do this in a way that y'all can actually see it. And then I'm going to slowly close while I hold it. And then you're going to move your fingers out of the way. And then you're just going to squeeze. And then you'll have a perfectly put in little grommet. Grommets and eyelets are pretty much the same thing. It's kind of just which thing you want to call it. I don't know if there's actually a difference or not. I kind of use the words interchangeably. I don't know if there's a difference. I honestly end up calling them whichever word I can remember at that given time. I think eyelets maybe don't have a bottom. Maybe that's the difference. But I mean, it won't really matter as long it's just to make it look cute on top. Oh, hi, Primera. All right, so I'm just gonna go through and repeat this process for all 4 of the little holes. Now the bands in my kits that I made for y'all will have the grommets already on it. So if you don't have a grommet thingy or an eyelet thing, you don't have to worry about it. You can still make one of these without having it. All right, the last one. Alright, so now that the eyelets are on, we can move on to our next step. I just put my little safety doodad back on. I'm very accident prone, so anything to make my crafting safer, I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Alright, so I am going to de-stress around the band that we just put the grommets on. And you can distress as heavily as or as light as you want to. Which usually I would be a heavy distressor on it. But we're just going to at least get the look going. And I don't usually on the band bother to distress around the back side. But I mean, if you would like to, you can. And I'll do the other part of our band. And I might just give it a light so it looks a little worn in places. Giving it that worn journal look. And then I'm going to get out our buckle. So this one had the little square buckle. So this is what the little square buckle looks like. And then the other one had the little round buckle. So both of them work exactly the same way. They just look a little different. So if you do have a preference and you get one of my kits, just let me know which one you would prefer to have. I mean, to me, I think all of them look cute. So. And when I did these ones, I did black cardstock. I didn't do that on these because that wouldn't match with all of the prints that I did the kits with. And then the other pieces I'm going to grab out of here right now are the little closure strap. And then there is even a little prong that goes to your little buckle. All right. So now we're going to start putting all these pieces together. I prefer doing it in the middle, but you're more than welcome to put the strap wherever you like. When I made these little clustery ones, this one, for instance, I ended up putting it down at the bottom because I got carried away with what I was creating and didn't think about where the strap was going. So, I mean, you can put it on there anywhere you would really like to. But I'm going to do at the middle. Let me grab my glue. Where's my glue? Oh, that's right. My kid took my glue upstairs. Okay, let me grab a different bottle of glue. Hang on. Alright, sorry about that. Can't really put it together if I don't have my glue. So I use the art glitter glue that a lot of people use, but I like smaller bottles, but of course it's more cost effective to get really big bottles. So I buy these really big bottles. I'm tired from running. Okay, and then I get these little bottles. I think it's 2 ounces, 3 ounces. I don't know. There's a listing for them in my shop. But I like these because it has the point, but then it has this little silicone cap. that goes on top. Which, if y'all had been on my shows before I discovered these, you would have seen me with my my cellophane glue tops made from like plastics and stuff, where I lost my lids. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna line this up first. Sorry, running to get glue. Okay. So you want to line it up so that there's some over here to flap over. And then I don't like to see it, if that makes sense. Like, I'd rather see like the little print through the hole instead of like random parts of the cardstock. And then wherever you're attaching this side, you got to make sure that there's not an eyelet or a grommet on the bendy part. Okay, so I'm going to attach the little part first. Kind of just look at my pattern and guesstimate about where I stuck that. So this one you can glue down all the way. Oh, my hands are so shaky. So shaky today. It's okay. It's not one of those things that maybe my hand will stop shaking more before I go to do pockets. All right. I had that right about there. Ooh, I didn't grab my mat so I can stop trying to get more glue on my tablecloth. Because that's what all the weird markings all over my table is glue markings. Okay. You're a little too low. No, okay, well that's where it's going now. I wasn't quite in the middle, but that's okay. And then we're gonna wrap this around and kind of pinch it over that. Oh, I just realized I don't know why I did that. We needed to do our signature before I did that, or it makes it really hard to get the signature in. I'm rushing myself. Okay. We're gonna wait. I completely forgot to do our signature. Let's do that first. That way I don't have to punch through many layers of cardstock. Okay. Rewind. So the paper in the kits that you'll get, these are, what size was this? These are 6 inches by 8 7/8 inches, and it's kind of what just happened to be, after a lot of measuring and cutting, that was the perfect size. So you'll get it this size, and then you do have to half them and then cut them in half. And then that will be the size to fit into the journal. I'm going to kind of fold these to get an idea of my half, and then I'm going to grab my cutter to cut them in half. I mean, you could also measure for half, but I mean, it's not that serious. Can figure out whatever half of 8 7/8 is, be my guest. That should be good enough. If it ends up a little off, it won't be the end of the world. Alright, so now we have our pages cut down. And then we are going to fold these in half again. And this will be our little signature. And of course, when you're making yours, you're more than welcome to add in other little papers, some vintage sheets, music sheets, whatever you'd like to add it in there. Oh, this is going to be interesting since I half attached a strap. Let's say that kind of brings it down to like the perfect little size to fit in there. And then we'll add in some little pockets and stuff in there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and sew that in. It's also important because If you do this step that I was about to do before you add the signature, you might end up with some weird pull once it's thicker and you have the signature in there. The pockets add a little bit of fatness to it as well, but it's not that bad. All right, let me grab my little needle. I even wrote my steps down. Well, you know what? I didn't write add signature. I just wrote the stuff really with the measurements. So that's where my flaw was. Because I always forget steps when I'm showing y'all stuff. All right, so your kit will come with some wax cord in there to bind your signature in. It doesn't come with a needle, but if you have a bookbinding needle, it'll work. And then if you don't, you can just use any bigger needle that you can fix the wax cord through. Just be careful because if you use not a bookbinding needle, it's sharper than this. Not to say you can't pierce yourself with this, because you sure can. All right, so with it being this size, I don't usually bother to do like to use this guy that's in my bookbinding kit to punch the holes ahead of time, because it's not a ton of papers. But I kind of do it. I do it in little steps. So I'm going to start in the middle. Let me try to scooch this up so y'all can see a little better. I'm going to start and kind of estimate my middle. And I'm just going to stab down towards the mat and then kind of just pull up on the signature a little bit. And then it'll poke through without me stabbing myself. And then I'm going to line this up to where I would like it in there. And stab through on that spine. Move the belt that I accidentally attached. Trying to make sure I don't hit the belt. Okay. Alright, so we're going to pull that through, but you want to make sure you leave some tail on the inside. So I'm going to leave myself a little tail to be able to tie it up later. So I'm going to make sure I hold this in place, and I'm kind of going to lay it right down. And I'm going to go up to the top. And now you got to think about the fact that the first little part, and you can feel where it goes down to where there's not the pages. And you don't want to do it right too close to the edge of the pages, or you could rip, through the pages when you're turning it. So I'm going to come in like 1/4 of an inch from where I feel the paper. And I'm going to do the same little stab down towards my mat. And then I'm going to pull up on the journal. And it'll nicely stab through. Pull that up. Oh. Wiggle a little. Alright, and then I'm going to pull that pretty tight, but make sure not to pull your tail out. Alright, so now I'm going to make sure that my pages are pretty centered like I want them. And then I'm going to do the same about 1/4 inch from the other side. And make sure that my fold of my pages is lined up with that line of the journal cover. And then I'm going to push down towards the mat and pull up. And we're going to pull it all the way through and wiggle it around a little. And then we're going to pull that until it's pretty taut on the inside. All right, so this one might be the hardest, and I made it even harder by trying to put my little strap on. So that hole we created earlier, we're going to try to go back through that same exact hole, but not go through the other cord. Moving my cord out the way. There we go. All right. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take the needle off. And that is the 3-hole pamphlet stitch is what I learned it as from people that I watched to learn how to do it. So now on this part, I kind of put one cord coming out on either side of our center line, and mine's kind of wiggly. So I'm going to tighten this up And pull that a little. And then pull both of our ends a little. But don't pull too much. You don't want to rip anything. All right, so I usually start out with making a little S. So I'm going to take this end and I'm going to tuck it under the bottom. Then I'm going to take this top and I'm going to tuck it under the top. So now it made a little S or a 5. It kind of looks more like a 5 for whatever reason. And then I'm going to put this end through here. And then I'm going to put this end through this one. And then I'm going to pull both of them tight. Now sometimes I'll do like the start of a regular knot before I do that, but I didn't want to make it too bulky since it's a mini little journal. And then after I do that, I am going to do like, you know, the start of tying your shoes. Just to tie that off a little. And then you can decide how long you want to leave these. If you want to leave them long and dangle a charm out of it or whatever you can. I'm just going to snip them off. If I know what I did with my scissors. Oh, they're on the floor. Come on, folks. So I'm just going to snip these guys off. All right, so now we have our little signature. And now I'm just going to kind of play with it from one side to the other side and try to train it to be a one happy family thing with itself so it doesn't immediately split to the middle. Which it'll learn over time from being closed, but that's a start. So now you can sit here, and if you want to distress your pages, you can. Sometimes I do like the, you know, the quick de-stress where I run up and down the pages like this, and it kind of just gives a group effect of a light stressing on the pages instead of doing them one by one. Or you can just skip it and leave them as they are. Kind of up to you, of course. It's your journal. Make it how you wanna. And then give it a little bit of wear and tear on its pages. All right, so now we have our signature. So now is the part where you actually start at putting on your closure. So we lined it up and we glued that part. Now I can glue down this part. My hand's not as shaky as it was earlier. All right, so now we're going to pinch around, which that's part of why you want to wait till you put the signature in, because you don't want to pinch that too tight. Hold that down for just a moment till it decides that it's happy where it's at. Now, if you did want to put anything on the cover, kind of like I did with these guys, you would want to do it before you add the closure. That way, you know, you still see your little closure. But I was just going to do this example just as a pretty little journal without a collage or pictures or whatever on the front. All right, so now we're going to put the other part on. All right, so I'm going to line this up. I'm going to line it up so that you can't see the cardstock through the little holes, so that's back here. And then I'm actually going to back up a little bit more because I don't want that on the fold. And I'm actually going to go ahead and fold that around that way, because that will make it easier to attach. So I'm going to flip this carefully and try not to let it move. And then I'm going to put glue on this guy. Obviously not on the eyelet, kind of just around the edges. And you don't want to do too close to the journal either, because then you could get it inside the journal. Hold that down for just a moment. And of course, you know, on your back cover, you can put another piece of paper or something if you want to cover where your little tabs are. Now that is attached. So in your little kit will also be this Velcro dot. So with the Velcro dot, one side, you know, as with all Velcro, is fuzzy and one side is like prickly. The side that's fuzzy is white and the side that is prickly is clear. So I usually go with putting the clear one on this part so that when you open it, you know, you don't see like this crazy fuzzy glue dot. It's clear, so you can, you know, I mean, you can see it, but you know, it's not as showing. So that means that our fuzzy part is going to go on here. So I'm going to start with the fuzzy part, and I'm going to unstick that, and I'm going to put it right there in that tip. And then the great part about these fuzzy ones, if you want it to make it match a little bit, you can try to de-stress it. That might have been too dark of a color, but you can distress it to make it a little less obvious. All right, so now we're going to take our prickly end of the Velcro, and we are going to go ahead and attach them, and then, you know, take the backing off so the sticky part is exposed, and then we're going to carefully close it to right where we want it to line up with, so that that's where that Velcro dot will stick. So now we have our little belt closure. All right, so now for the inside. So your kit will come with some coordinating paper to whatever the cover is. I have a bunch of different covers. So the cardstock will just be the coordinating one. And it should be enough cardstock for you to get imaginative. I usually do mine with one larger pocket on either the front or the back, like a little side corner pocket. And then I usually do two smaller pockets on whichever side doesn't have the larger one. But of course, it's completely up to you on how you would like to add pockets and things. So I'm going to start with the back, and I'm going to do my larger pocket in the back. I'm going to kind of just estimate where I want it to go. And then y'all are going to see my lovely inability to cut straight. All right, let's see. So that's how wide I want it. And then I'm going to go maybe to about here with height. And then I'm going to just cut from one corner that I made to the other. And it's going to look interesting, I'm sure. All right. So I'm going to distress this a little bit. And you can do, like, there's a type of little corner pocket like this where you leave a little extra and you make a little flap to glue down if you want it to be bigger, to be able to hold more. But I was just going to do a simple little corner. I did leave a little thicker edge towards my bottom so that stuff won't fall out as easily. I probably could have left it a little bigger, but that's okay. All right, so I'm only going to put glue on this side and this side, so not on the hypotenuse. Bringing back your high school math. Let's see if I can get my hands to not shake as much. It is good to have a thin glue nozzle so that you can just do a very thin little line down the side. All right. And then we're just going to place that right in there. Make sure that any glue that oozes out, we clean it up so our back page doesn't get stuck on there. And then if you do want it to have more space before you like glue it down, it's always a good idea to have some extra cardstock handy. And kind of pop something in there while you're pushing down your sides. That way it'll have a little bit more give to what you are putting into it later. I've gotten ink all over myself. All right, so see, that way it gives us a little bit more popping space. All right, so now we're going to do the front. And I'm just going to do a slightly larger little rectangle down here and then a little smaller rectangle up there. So let's see. I want it to be about there. I'll cut across, and when I'm freehand cutting, sometimes I try to use the pattern of the paper to try to get my stuff to line up better. Oh, I slid. And now, if you do have a corner rounder, of course, you are more than welcome to round the corners of your pockets. I might just go ahead and round the bottoms of mine. Or actually, I might just round the tops. The tops, I don't think might look cute. Punch that paper into my trash instead of onto my table. And then, if you do get one of these handy dandy corner notch ones, you can also use the notch part to notch the middle. Make it easier to pull out whatever you put in there. I think this thing is actually for like making envelopes, is what I found it listed as, which I'll show y'all how to find those here in a few. How am I on time? I'm good. Okay. I'm just going to de-stress around my little pockets. So I want to make sure that I run the kits for you guys. And then I can babble about tools and stuff after that. And then I also did make some of the little coordinating pin-ons too. Oh, I forgot to do in the notchy part. So on these, whatever side you picked as your top, you're not going to put glue on it, which mine's a little easy since I did the little notch. Now, if you happen to have like a circle punch or any kind of punch you can use part of to just make a little cutout in the top, you can also use that as well. I've discovered that I have all these crazy different kinds of punches that I've gotten, but I don't actually have just a plain like 1-inch circle. Can y'all believe that? All right, and I am going to try to line it up with where my little pocket is in the back just for uniformity. Try to say that 10 times fast. And then I'm going to stick my little, it might be a little bit big to be trying to shove in there for some space, but try to shove that in there just to give it a little more room. And then we'll repeat with my little smaller pocket. And I made this one a little skinnier because I'd rather it be a little skinnier than end up bigger and look really funny. I think that's going to be way too big to fit in here. So I'll just kind of add a little corner of that just to give it some pop out. All right. So now we have made our little journal with 2 little pockets in the front. You just found oh nice, that's a big circle. 2 1/4 inches. And then we have our little tuck spot in the back. And of course you can add whatever little tags or doodads you'd like to. I got a bunch of ink on this from my hand. That'd be okay. But we've made a little mini file folder journal with a little Velcro closure and pockets and a little signature in it. It does. It like adds it a little bit something. It makes it look like I've been like writing in it forever because I must have got more ink on it. All right, let me cap my glue and then I'm gonna pull out these journal covers so that I can show y'all what options y'all have. Oh, and I made, here's my example clip because the one I picked, the little clips that I made, they're on little pins. So you can either pin right through your cover or you can stick it through the wax cord on your signature. But I did create little tabs that match and make it look cute. Oh my gosh, I didn't put the buckle on, y'all. I'm like, what are these pieces still doing here? All right, I'm almost done. Y'all thought y'all were about done with me. All right, so you just want to thread this guy on here. And I usually try to land mine where it is straddled across two of the little doodads. Yeah. Thank you, Tina. I noticed as I tried to clean up my table. All right, so on the back side, I'm gonna stick this through the first little hole and then hook it. And if you can't get it to hook, y'all can just tuck it in there and glue it. Some of mine I've managed to actually hook them. Sometimes I haven't, but it will actually hook on there, which is adorable. I'm not going to stress about it right this minute. I'm just going to glue it and be done with it. Actually, here, hold on. I think I'm going to do this one. Oop. Wrong end. That end. Not cooperating. Okay. I'm just going to tuck that under that strappy. Maybe. Ew. Tuck. I didn't say it wasn't temperamental, y'all. Okay. Now I'm going to shove this under there and put some glue. Maybe. Did my glue just get jammed up? Or did I leave it sitting there too long while I was talking? I did. Hold on, I'm trying to find a straight pin. That's what I get for not putting my, I don't know where my pins are. That's what I get for not putting my lid on my glue earlier. And you don't need a ton of glue to get it to stay. And then you want to make sure you don't close it yet so that you don't actually glue it shut. And kind of just wiggle it and maneuver it till it looks right. And then I am going to clip that because I feel like it's a little long. These are really massive scissors to do that with. I didn't grab my little scissors. And then I'm actually going to put the tiniest little speck of glue underneath my little prong, just so that it doesn't get caught. You know, if you want to carry this little mini journal in your purse or something like that, you don't want you to break your little closure. And make sure I'm all straight. And then we do have this little guy, which, you know, is like the tuck spot when you're closing a thing. And we're just going to glue that right there on the end. then make sure I didn't get glue on the inside. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Being a space cadet. So now it has its full little belt closure look. So, there we go. Now it's cute. Alright, let's put that one right up there. Oh, thank you. They are a little tedious, but they're absolutely adorable. Alright. So all of your kits will come with, you know, these will already have the little grommets on there, and then all your stuff you need. And there are little cardstock buttons as well. So if you wanted to put buttons on the corners or on the corners of pockets to decorate it, you can. There's 4 of them in there. Let me grab where I put the journal. Where did I put them? Oh, here they are. I'm about to get mad. It's like, what? I'm just gonna pull out my stack of covers. Oh, and I do have the one I had up earlier to show y'all. Make some space. All right, so like this, each one, like this one, some of the parts are a little glossy and cute, and it does come with some coordinating cardstock. I think I have 2 of all of them, except for the one that I just did, and then there's one in here that there's only one of. I have one of the one that I did. This is the other one of this one. So this is the little rose one. It's got some glitter on it. Got 2 of those. This is the awesome black print that I am adoring this paper. Like this whole pack, this all comes from the same pack of paper and it's absolutely glorious to me. So I've got 2 of that one. I've got this one. Well, I guess I'll show you the cover. That's kind of more important than the extra cardstock. So it's a nice little florals and book prints. Got 2 of that one. This one is this really cute, like vintage furniture one. I've got 2 of those. And then we have this little, like, it's a dark, dark brown floral. And I've got 2 of those. I know, I'm obsessed with this paper. And then this is the one that I only have 1 of because only half the sheet is this print, so I can only make 1 out of it. But it's this cool red and black floral one. So we'll tuck that one up there. Okay, so let me find this listing. And of course, I just put the covers out instead of the whole kits because that would be a hot mess. But you'll get everything that comes in the kit, which the listing lists it all out.